Now we're recording. All right, so to find the individual registration booklet, which does include information about rechartering your troop, the easiest place to find it is right on the main page of the council website right now. And here is a link to the PDF. It says linked informational PDF. So this is going to give you really everything, all the information we have, including screenshots. And we're going to look at my.scouting tonight. I'm going to show you some other things that either you as a key 3 of the unit or the district have some options to do too. So the first thing I want to mention is that rechartering is over. It doesn't exist anymore, right? So what that looks like now is individual registrations and on a 12-month rolling basis, right? So is everyone aware kind of that situation? When that changed, the national organization also got rid of the $25 joining fee. So some of you might be familiar more on the Cub Scout side of that one-time joining fee. No longer exists. So that was kind of taken away as part of a fee adjustment that they did down there. So really the fees are very, very set. It's $85 for a youth is the fee that goes to the national BSA. And $70 is what stays in Chester County Council. So it's $155 for a youth to register for a year. That does not include any unit dues or anything else on top of that your unit may collect. And keep in mind that the council cannot collect any of that for you. So, please don't hand out our Venmo and say, hey, pay the council, they'll give us $100 back. That's really not a process we can do. We did find out that you can't refund money via Venmo business account anyway, so it makes it even more difficult and definitely raises some eyes when we get our yearly financial audit of money. But for renewal, your families will start to get notified 60 days before they expire. And we're going to talk about how that process looks on the unit's end and how it looks on the family's end. But the most important caveat here is that they have an email address, right? If they don't have an email address, there's no way they're going to get that notification. Many of you are already using Scoutbook, which is great. So you can, if a family is getting a Scoutbook email, you can guarantee that BSA has their correct email. It's all one single database. So in a lot of cases, it really shouldn't be an issue. But if your unit for some reason is not using Scoutbook, one, I encourage you to use it. It's free. There's no cost to that. And two, it automatically syncs with the BSA system. So should you get a new scout, new adult, they're automatically going to come into Scoutbook and be registered. So I think it's just an easy way to manage that process. But what we're seeing and hearing about around the country is email addresses are tending to be the #1 reason why people are not renewing on time. However, someone basically has a third of the year to renew. So if I expire in August, my registration, I can renew up to 2 months before August and 2 months after August before my registration ever drops. So they've been pretty generous with the amount of time that someone has. Again, 4 total months is kind of what you have, 2 prior and 2 after registration for those families to renew. And has anyone here personally had to renew or been through the process?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I get an email 10 months into the year.
Mm-hmm.
I register, pay for the following year. Does it start because I go early? Or
it's going to continue the 12-month period. Okay. Yeah. So if you expire in August and you paid in July, it's still going to be an August expiration. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions about that? I have heard, I have not had to renew my registration yet, but I have heard there is a place you can tell the system to tokenize your credit card, which is different than storing a credit card, but basically it allows you to have them auto deduct that fee every year should you wish to do that. Obviously, you can stop it at any time. So we're going to go through that process of how it stops. So renewing online through my.scouting is really the most easiest, clearest, quickest way to make that happen. You can also always, we'll always accept money in here. You can always turn in a registration fee at that time. These are registration renewals, which is important that word renewals on there. This is not for new scouts, right? So new families can't go on with this process. They can certainly still go to beascout.org and apply on that way and pay the $155 fee. But this is the renewal process, so it's different for new families. So you'll see, we'll talk about screenshots on here. Page 14 has a payment processing. If parents don't already have a My.Scouting account, they'll need to create one. Everyone already has a BSA ID number, whether they know it or not. That email or that number is in the email that goes out. Generally, the system is decent about a new parent registering and saying, hey, look, I see them in the Chester County database. I'm going to match them up. I can see that they're the parent of XYZ Scout. I'm going to match them up automatically. Usually that's done very well on their side, pending we have that information on the application. You can see there's some parents with multiple Scouts. You only need to create one account. So if you have multiple parents in the program or not in the program, only one of them is going to have to renew. So again, everyone has a BSA ID number, whether they know it or not. A Tiger parent who's not registered has a BSA ID number, much like a Scoutmaster or committee chair has. They just don't generally know it. But again, the system is going to try and match that up when I type in their birth date, their phone number, their email. Again, pending that it's all the same thing we have. Sometimes there's issues with that if they've moved or haven't updated something on their head. Anyone have any kind of questions about the individual process? We're going to go through that when we get a little farther in here.
Jake, if someone changes their email address, so they're not getting the notification, then it's really up to someone in the unit who's going to see that they haven't registered again to track them down.
Yep, and we're going to go through that process. Anyone in here get those emails yet? I can think of someone who I know has been getting emails about people expiring, but Billy, so how often do you get those emails as a committee chair, charter organization?
Well, with just a few people that registered last August, so I'm 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna get
I
blast.
believe it batches them together,
Does
correct?
it?
Or you're getting a single email per person. That probably happened at the beginning since
I
batch.
get them all batched together, and I get them. If the system's functioning correctly, the first of the month, but that doesn't always happen. They've been coming since July.
Yeah, my impression is for this time period of the year, they're gonna be coming weekly. There's a lot of people, right, you can't make a general statement for a million people, but a lot of people, I guess, have expressed interest that they would like that to come weekly. The Nationals pushback is you can generate that report at any time, which we're going to talk about. So we'll see, because there is a limit of email, I guess, they can send based on spamming photos. But we're going to go through how you can generate all those reports on your own. But yes, that's exactly right. If someone's email address has changed, and really the simplest way to look at it is look at the Scouts that are due to renew, right? And you probably know if Jimmy's going to recharter or renew, or if he hasn't been seen in a year, or if they're dragging on, right? Again, they have 2 months after expiration before they actually drop from Scouting. What? Go ahead, Matt Heilman.
Jake, is the same process for adult leaders? Do they pay and then they get a notice every year for renewal?
Yes, so adults can renew online, but that still requires an approval by a chartered org rep or designee. And we're going to actually show you a feature in the system where that can be changed. But ultimately, much like any adult application, there will have to be an approval from a chartered org representative or a delegate. So we'll go through how to make that happen.
Is that for renewals also? So once you're approved by the chartered org on a yearly basis,
This is
do they get a bill?
This is just for renewals. New adults still need to complete a paper application with the youth protection certificate with their PA Act 15 clearances attached before they can register.
Okay, thank you.
So what happens when adults register, right, they pay their $155, not register, renew. Vicky, the registrar, again gets notification, and that next day, because there's not, unfortunately, a better process in place, she will suspend anyone whose clearances expired. There's very few people that renew on August 1st and their clearances expired on August 1st. Usually there's a 2-week, 3-week delay, and the clearances are good until the date they expire. So some of you may have been copied on emails if you're part of the key 3 of a unit leader who's been suspended because of that. But again, once they turn them in, we unsuspend them.
There's supposed to be those lists for clearances, and there's individual statuses of adults is supposed to go out the first of the month as well, but that doesn't always happen.
Okay, we can look into that. So we own the clearance management system. That's something we built. This system, very different, right? This is the online registration system, is a national system. So if you're not getting your clearance emails and you're part of the key three, or frankly, if there's someone else in your unit, maybe the key three isn't managing that, maybe it's someone else, you can add as many people to that distribution as you'd like. And it's really just a spreadsheet. It lists everyone's name, their BSA ID number, and their clearances. There's no other personal identifiable information on it. Just name and BSA ID number. But again, feel free to ask me or Vicky, the registrar, can make those updates at any time. Generally, we just have them going to the troop XXX, at CCC BSA, or PAC, 123 at CCC BSA. But if you'd like to add someone specifically. All right, let's look at, now that we're through here, the actual renewal screenshots for individual registration. So again, I'd encourage you to show these to your families. If there's questions, as soon as they log on, they're going to see a red notification here at their top of their bar, which says their membership is expiring soon. Click there to renew, and they'll continue to get that in addition to the emails they've been getting. This just kind of takes you through. The biggest thing is adults. Frankly, I wouldn't get stuck on this process. At the end of the day, you only need to pay the $155 once, regardless of how many registrations you have. So if you're a Cub Master, you're registered in Troop as a committee member, you're on the council board, if you're registered as a Cradle of Liberty Council as XYZ position, it doesn't matter. You only pay that $155 once. So again, we all know how good BSA technology is. Part of their main project this year is to make sure everyone only has one BSA ID number. There are quite a few volunteers who have 10, 15 BSA ID numbers because they just keep creating them. Every time they forget their My.Scouting password, they create a new account, and it creates a new BSA ID number. So what the system is trying to do at this point is merge them together. So I know there's quite a few people in here that have multiple registrations. So when you renew, you'll see them much like this. So this says Chartered Org Rep, Committee Member, Chartered Org Rep. You can see it's Troop 23. I wonder if this is someone from this council, but it doesn't really matter. So, and then you even have the option here to remove the position. If you're registered in PAC XYZ and Troop 123, and you're done in PAC XYZ, you just hit remove it, it's not going to renew it. Again, there's no additional fee to remain registered, but you can do that. The other thing you can do is set it as a primary position. So maybe Joe was committee member in the PAC and assistant scoutmaster in the troop. Again, if he makes that his primary, nothing is officially done until the COR approves it, because no one except the COR can approve or change positions, adult leadership positions. Whether that's in this part of the system, whether it's an organizational manager, whether that's a paper application, right? There's only a few people that can approve those adult applications. You're going to type in that you're going to sign, right? Digital signature. If you're registering a youth, it's always going to default to Scout Life magazine. We did hear, and again, it's kind of trial and error because we can't see a lot of this data, is if the Scout didn't have it last year, that it is defaulting off. But again, if families are expecting to pay a certain amount, if you tell them it's $155 online and it ends up being $170 because it's including Scout Life, then maybe they can see something's off. So just a quick reminder, if they don't want it, if they want it, certainly keep it checked. If they don't want it, just uncheck that box that's next to it. And then you just kind of go down the similar billing information that you would find in any other online process. And that's really it for the individual piece. Anyone have any questions about that? This is if a family is renewing. This does not mean that the PAC sold popcorn and they're paying a portion of that. That's next. That's a unit renewal.
If we need to resend the email, maybe their email address is wrong, fix it. Do we have a way to resend their renewal email to?
My impression is Vicky is the only one that has access to that. It is supposed to, so the BSA systems sync every day at 3 a.m. So depending on when the change is made, the system is supposed to pick that up. It might be a day or two delay.
Either way, they can log on and see that
Right, and the other piece, which I'll show you, is if someone has opted out of all BSA communications, they will not get the renewal email. There's not many people in that boat, and I think most of them have been contacted by Vicky. One of our processes leading up to this was anyone who was missing an email address in its entirety, we had to update, and so that was kind of done as part of this process.
Jake, just so, did I get this? The adults renew with the recharter, right? That's when all the leaders renew.
No, there is no more recharter as anyone knows it. So
Okay.
there will be no district recharter days this year. There'll be no turn in paperwork days this year. Right, there are families in your units that are already renewed through 2025. We're going to talk a little bit about how to renew your unit physically. But there's no.
So I'll get a, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead, Matt.
So I'm gonna get a notification like everyone else. Matt, your Cub Master is due for renewal. We'll go pay. Did I hear $155 for me this year?
No, that's the youth fee.
Okay. The $89 I gotta go pay on a yearly basis now, whatever it may be.
Right, so instead of a unit writing a check for $6,000 to the council by December 31st, whatever their amount was, using that complicated fee sheet with rebates and this. That process doesn't exist anymore. A unit can still pay for someone, and we're gonna talk about that next. And the unit could still pay the entire way, but it's solely based on expiration dates, not a calendar year.
Okay, thank you.
95% of our membership has a 12/31 expiration date, but that's just because of how it was before. So many of you, right, will not start getting the emails until November or late July or late October. But again, we're gonna review that and show you how that looks. Anyone have any other questions? The individual doing it? So this is when a unit is renewing youth. Again, you can choose to renew as many youth as you want. You can, or adults, you can do this as many steps as you want. You could do this every other day if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be done in a certain time frame. You can pick and choose, maybe these 2 scouts did it for popcorn, and maybe 2 months later, 2 other scouts did it on a car wash or something. Again, it doesn't matter when you do it. As long as it's more or less than 2 months after their expiration. Otherwise, they'll be completely dropped. So really, you go to your roster in My.Scouting. You're going to click the fillable boxes here and just hit renew. At this point, you can also opt out members. So opting out means that family will no longer receive emails from the system that their registration is due. So if you have a family that you know is not going to renew for whatever reason, you can save everyone the hassle and just mark them as opted out. And that will stop all emails and kind of remove them from the list of units of members to renew. So it just won't, they'll kind of phase off once they expire. So you can opt them out.
Hey, Jay.
Yep.
If you have a situation where Scout moves or has moved, you opt them out and they're trying to register with another troop, how does that?
So families can transfer across councils. Frankly, the BSA is getting to a point where paper is no longer really necessary for any registration. A lot of it can be done on the back end now because we're in Pennsylvania. That is a little different for us on the adult side, but in theory, once a youth turns in their first application, they likely never have to do one again if the process is handled well. So families can move, even from a scout going or Cub Scout going to a troop, you don't need a paper application. The family can move them. You can invite them and move them over. This isn't really the time for that, but we can certainly discuss that another time, all the features that exist in the membership realm, or maybe if there's time at the end we can. So, in that case, Bill, I'd probably just talk to the family and say, hey, do you want us to leave these emails on or not? Again, they'll have up to 2 months to register someone. So the BSA systems outside of the individual councils don't talk for security purposes. So if they were to move to Montgomery County and join Cradle Liberty Council, the process is that council registrar, we call Vicky, verify they've paid what they're good for, and then they register them that way. Just kind of keep them on the same rotation.
Can you opt them out? Does their membership just run its course then?
Correct. They will still expire at the end of their term, but they will then quickly drop from Scout Book and quickly drop from the roster. They have some built-in fees, just be aware of $1 for the ACH payment, 3% for credit cards. This is again kind of the process of submitting payment.
We have a fee for debit cards.
I think they consider them 3%. She gives some directions in here. We're not gonna spend much time on it, but you can pay directly to the council. So you kind of just renew the same way. But you'll see there's a print unit payment. So it kind of gives Vicky a receipt so she can verify everything you did. So if you are renewing people online, there is the option to pay, again, via check. You could either do it on the front end this way, or you could bring a check in and say, hey, Vicky, I'm renewing these 10 kids, and she can do it. So that's, again, you can either pay online for these scouts, or you can pay in person. The same way goes for people renewing. They could come in and pay individually for their registration. If you have someone who's a bit older in your unit, or maybe they just don't get the process. I know that sometimes the BSA system's cash, and you can always get the pages to load correctly. They're always welcome to just come in here and pay Vicky, and she can mark them as renewed and move on at that point. This is kind of a picture of the receipt that you would, bring to the Chester County Council. This is an example of a renewal form you could print for your families. This process here is about what happens once they've, renewed. The youth will generally just require a quick approval, but the adults will need to be renewed. So you can see them in your unit roster. The recharter status is here. We're going to go into a unit so I can show you guys what this looks like with the screenshots. It's important to keep in mind again that we as council employees have no access to these, so we cannot approve on your behalf. We don't have that system functionality doesn't exist. We get some requests sometimes like, hey, can you just approve them? Unfortunately, we can't get into that part of the system. It's to prevent membership fraud. So
I have a question for you, Jake.
Yeah.
Suppose you're just part of a district committee. Who does the approval process? You're a member at large.
so the members at large go to a separate queue, and right now that goes to what they call a key 3 delegate. Myself, that's okay.
So my COR is going to have to go in this year and approve me when I renew.
Correct. But the committee, so the COR can delegate adult renewal to whatever adult, or specifically the committee chair. I'll show you that checkbox in there. So
So this could be a whole new role on PAC committees, group committees.
it could be. I think for the time being, right, most of our membership expires 12/31. So that's going to be the crunch as spring recruiting starts to pick up and fall recruiting starts to become a little bit more prevalent throughout the year. That's going to split, right? The dates are going to stagger, but for probably the immediate future, this is still going to be a December, November kind of process, right? Like rechartering was. Ultimately, though, you're never, unless you're paying via paper check or cash, you don't need to come to the council service center anymore for this process. Or spend a Saturday at a church somewhere. For the unit renewal, this is again replacing the kind of validation check that was done. So during the old recharter period, one of the things you'd have to do if you were involved in that process, right, is choose what positions adults were going to be in. And the system would validate that you have enough adults, enough trained adults, to fill that role. And in some cases, right, there wasn't, and usually that's because the adult's missing youth protection or clearance or something of that nature. Here, it's supposed to be a pretty quick and easy process. Again, none of our units have been through it, but you can go on quickly, look at who the adults are, who the registrations are. It's going to kind of walk you through that. You're going to, sign. You're going to type the name of the person signing. Again, not everyone has access to this. This is if you're paying at the council, the prints a form you have to sign in person. But if you're paying online, which I recommend, is just going to be the easiest. This is the end of the process here, and you'll see that the unit is renewed for another year. So I'm going to tell you that this is not going to be clean this year, right? We know that with PA Act 15 clearances and the ability on your end not to go through that process, that manual review, that some people are going to sneak through, right? So that's why, part of our process is Vicky every day looks at adults renewing because the two aren't tied together anymore. So just a kind of a caveat is you could get an email a few days after you do this process and think you're done that, hey, Mr. Smith is being dropped or suspended because something expired, right? So unfortunately, the system isn't able to clue in our clearances in any way. As far as youth protection goes, we are still being told that youth protection is going to be a 1-year certification here very soon. And so the system is going to validate off of 365 days as opposed to 2 years like it does right now. So that would pretty much eliminate that piece. And the clearance piece, right, I guess the only way you might be able to see that, right, is if someone gets suspended during this process, they're not going to show up as selectable adults. So that's one way. But again, as the key 3 always gets contacted when someone has been suspended, and 9 times out of 10, they can get a clearance very quickly. We've been seeing the clearance return rate at about 12 hours, so it's been very quick. Ben,
I had an experience with that where I actually have been reminding the individual who's on the committee, and this person had not done it, and I finally got them, and the person expired. I wrote it down to Vicky because I had it in my hands because she said. So
yeah, so there is the clearance portal. I'm not sure if everyone knows about that, but I would encourage you to have your registered adults upload their own clearances and deal with them themselves. We can talk about that in a bit, but that's the same system Norm was talking about. The reports that come out that show you kind of as often as you want. We can set them to whatever you're looking for. Give you those updates as far as when people's clearances are expiring.
So for this unit renewal, as committee chair, can I go in and do it? Does my COR have to do it? Can Scoutmaster or committee member do it? Who has access to it?
So I believe it's committee chair or COR. I don't believe the Scoutmaster that has access to it, or Cubmaster. Again, that can change if power in the system is delegated. So I'll show you guys that. So let's take a quick look. Let's get out of this PowerPoint here. And let's go to the My.Scouting portal. So mine's gonna look a little different than yours, but right, you're gonna go to Organization Manager. Does anyone want me to experiment with their unit, or just pick a random?
It's fine.
All right, so the first piece here I was talking about earlier is this right here, membership application approval. So this says select the adult who has the ability to approve applications for your unit. Again, this only applies to youth applicant or adult applications. So right now, everyone is defaulted to COR representative approval. The process is a little bit quicker with the committee chair recommendation and charter org approval. But again, there's kind of another way. I'll show you if key 3 delegate isn't. Key 3 delegate access is permitted. But ultimately, right, the COR is the representative of your charter organization. They should be the ones approving the adults that are then registered under that charter organization. You'll see a few other options in here. You can automatically accept youth applications. That's purely a unit decision. JJ's unit has done a great job. In here, there's a way to include the fee explanations and what your fee is. So again, the BSA system cannot collect your unit dues, but it can tell people about them. So you can see they actually created their own custom email, which is great for welcome emails and their fee explanation. Any unit can do that in their system and strongly encouraged to do so. So again, we're in the organizational manager of our unit. We talk about reports. We see there's a lot in here. There's members due to renew, pretty important members who have renewed. Non-renewed membership report, records of change, all these different reports kind of help you or the person who maybe has been delegated in the unit manage this process. So the reports are kind of what they seem. You can choose the dates here at the top and run the report, and it'll give you that information you're looking for. The roster is going to look a little bit different than it's going to look for JJ or yourselves in your unit because we don't have certain permissions. But this is kind of where you get a general idea of where people stand. So for example, Jackson, this youth member here, expired 8/31/2024 because that was the first expiration date for anyone. You can see that his renewal status is completed, which is the final stage, and he has not opted out. So this kind of gives you a general idea. No one's current, have 12/31, so they can't do anything yet, so they're considered current.
There's two other completions in there.
Yep. So, JJ, is this something you did or something that the families did on their own?
So, these three youth were the first ones to get these emails, and I was the first. First time I got the emails was basically said, people need to renew. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know that they would be getting a separate email. It's the first run, so I actually went in here, selected their names and clicked renew up top because I thought that made sense. But actually what that did was made it so that they could not go online and renew.
Yeah, so let's discuss that. Again, you can't see it on my side because we can't renew people, but if I was on the roster and I knew I wanted to renew these three people and I hit renew, what that does is that takes them out of the queue. So it's basically saying the unit is going to renew these people. So even if you click 3 and hit renew and then close out of the page and do nothing else, they are still going to be unable to renew. The system has created a batch, and even though you have not checked out, it's going to hold them in this space, really, and the family's not going to be able to renew until they're released. So the unit has to do it. Now, to do that, you can easily just cancel that process. And you'll see that here below. So you have unit paid membership renewal batches. You'll see you would see one that's here and you would hit delete if it's not you can't delete it if it's already processed, right? So you would hit delete and that immediately will give those families access back. So my tip to you would be don't hit renew on anyone unless you're actually planning on the unit paying for them.
I was gonna say, JJ, is your unit paying for them, or is it something first time around you thought?
This, so I think it was the first one. I didn't get the email.
You said they
So yeah, it didn't really explain what to do. And I didn't know at the time that the families were also getting emails. I thought that there was action required on my part, and there actually was not.
So did they
Yeah,
ask
not on
you
the
to
system.
pay after you hit renew, and that's when you said, oh?
No, there was a lot of trying to figure out what happened. And then once I pulled them off, they were able to go on. They said it's a very easy process to go through.
And so we have that at the bottom. We also have the membership renewal order. So these would again be people that are registering on their own, renewing on their own without the unit paying. And what it gives you is the status. And the most important thing I think is this little icon here, which tells you what the status actually means. So you can see kind of where they are. So sometimes we saw one earlier today that was pending approval because their payment hadn't cleared. So you can kind of see these are all people that are going to pop up once the email starts sending. They're going to create a batch and they're going to go in and kind of be in that process. Again, this is all just under your roster page. Yours will look a little different. If you're in a leadership role in a unit, you'll have the option to renew and do a few other things. But again, you're not going to renew unless the unit is physically paying for those people.
How do people go from completed to? A couple there that are completed.
So
Current means they're not really ready. So these, the ones that are current are 12/31/24.
So they're not getting emails yet.
Right, but they're just current.
They will 2 months
They're
back.
currently active.
you like page one.
Completed doesn't imply that they're currently active. Just that-
That means the
completed the
renewal
process.
access.
So the top scout there, Jackson, he joined us last year. So he had to renew in August. So he's set and complete. Bennett just joined a month ago. So he's showing us current. And so then everybody else on here is basically what they're
It's current.
showing us current because we're not due to the end of the year.
That means the membership is paid up.
So
Right.
what that likely means, Stuart, is at some point, I don't know when, at some point, these will switch back to completed to current, and, go through the process, probably 2 months
Some sort of
before.
cycle.
Right, probably 2 months before they'll switch to current, from completed,
Maybe
or maybe 2 months
2
after.
months before, 2 months after.
Right, we'll switch, yeah, that status will change, but current and completed are both good options, so let's keep, right?
Right, fair enough.
That's a good point, and frankly, what we're finding is people like JJ who have been through the process could generally explain it better because they've seen it, right? We can't even create a fake unit to try it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we have no way to really try it. Some other things in here. So there's 2 things on here under the position manager that I just want to mention because they tend to confuse people a little bit. Our registered position and functional roles. So a registered position is something that someone can fill out an application for, something that is an actual registration position. Functional roles is usually what we get on applications, like I'm going to be the troop treasurer. Troop treasurer is not an actual role, right? It's just a functional assignment. If someone's going to register as a treasurer, they're likely going to be a committee member, right? Or something like that. But functional roles allow you to add anyone that's registered into various positions. So here you have a COR delegate. We don't have any CORs in this council. A COR is a council unit representative. That'd be like a unit chartered by the Chester County Council. And then key 3 delegates and various other things. In this situation, talking about adult applications in the application process, a COR delegate is the only one that can approve adult applications or a COR. A key 3,
Who is a delegate?
whomever they choose, whomever is registered.
Liability go with
What
that?
the COR
What's that?
Does the liability go with that?
As far as what?
Any other liability?
Well, COR is to be covered this insurance the same as any other registered parent.
But the CORs are when we can delegate this.
Correct, and on here you'll see that I can add, if someone calls and says, hey, we need to add someone as youth protection champion. We can do that. We cannot add a COR delegate. That position's blacked out. We don't have that authority. It can only be done by the COR.
So I can decide not to have a delegate.
100%. You're the only one that can go in and make that.
Because the chartered org is going to be liable, just like the chartered orgs
Right,
have been through all the bankruptcy and the lawsuit.
Which is exactly why that authority remains only with that person. Ben doesn't have the authority to override that role. No employee does. It's just the COR.
CRs better be very careful to choose as a delegate.
Yeah. I will tell you right now, I don't believe there's a single unit that has it done. Whether that's because they don't know the option exists, but we do get reports on show kind of system access.
I got tutored by Vicky, so I understand.
It's in my unit.
Same thing for registered positions. Many of you, when you log in this page, will see something like this. A COR can actually move. It's changed the scoutmaster and committee member. Because at the end of the day, right, if you turn in an adult application for a new scoutmaster, the COR has to approve that, right? So why don't they have the access to do that? Again, the BSA is trying to get away from paper applications for every single transaction that has to occur. I will tell you, there's a pretty significant audit trail, as you can imagine, coming out of bankruptcy. But the options all exist for that. Does anyone have any other questions about this? I did see Ben stop in, and Ben, part of their agenda tonight is to talk about Downingtown School District and maybe any other Horseshoe Trail districts, but so I'm gonna turn it over to you to do that, but does anyone have any other questions about specifically unit renewal, individual renewal? Yes, no.
Is there a charter agreement that needs to be signed as well that goes with that?
There is, they are working, currently it's going to be paper. They are working on putting it into the system that has a digital signature attached.
They addressed the issue that I had last year with the insurance statement. It expired in like in March.
So
With no renewal clause.
So I will tell you that the chartered agreement will always be a March renewal. And the reason for that is because of the national insurance is a March to February.
I get that, but as soon as, if there's no notice or anything else, which there never is, there's a liability, the charter ordinance.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. That I can pass it on to Mr. Wheeler for his
I wouldn't sign it.
super
back
secret
here.
calls that he has. Yep. Powers that be.
I wouldn't, as you know, I wouldn't.
No,
sign it.
and I saw a version this year that does include Roger Crone's signature. The CEO of the organization. So I think that was one of your points, right? Is that it's signed by somebody who's not even employed in it.
Yeah.
Roger Mosby. They should have just signed it Roger and piloted it. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer, just so everybody knows. Oh,
Yeah.
I want to close your page here. Any other questions before I turn it over to Ben? Ben, there are some people on Zoom, just so you're aware. And that I will turn it over to the Scout Executive, Ben Wheeler.
Good, excellent. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. I stepped in here later because I was at a joint night this evening in Paoli at St. Norbert's, but it's going really well. For the third consecutive month, the council has membership. Which is fantastic. And specifically as it relates to Horseshoe Trails District, I was with the principal at Callan Elementary this morning. She gave us like green light for Scout Talk, so we're going in on Monday. I'm just filling out the facility request form right here for Callan Elementary in Coatesville School District. And then thanks to Norm's good work, the superintendent has said yes in Downingtown for Scout Talks. So I'm hoping to, as soon as like a week and a half, start going in, maybe like the week of Halloween, start going in for Scout Talks there. Otherwise, yeah, it's going really well overall for the councils.
Do you want to explain what your Scout Talks are and what the process is? Because I don't know how many you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure maybe how many people are in Zoom. For Scout Talk, so like kind of the proven way to like grow this movement that's been done for many, many decades is to like go in either like an hour before dismissal to the classrooms or at lunch for 1 minute. And give kind of like an elevator speech almost for scouts. We keep it to like a minute because you kind of lose the kids' attention span after a minute, but we're highlighting on the fun things. We're not talking about like, hey, hey kindergartner, if you join up for Cub Scouts, it's gonna look really good for your resume when you're applying to college. They ain't thinking about it. They wanna know, can they do BB guns? Can they go fishing? Can they do rock climbing? And so we sell them on those things at lunch, and then we invite the families back the following evening to the school to sign up for Scouts while the buzz and excitement's still there. And so yeah, we just have to, in this council, like a lot of councils have gotten away from it. So certain school districts, like, when I came in 7 months ago, we had 0 school access throughout the council in the public schools. And that's not a recipe for success. And now we've changed that and we're in over half the school districts. And the schools that we're going into, we're getting a number of families. That's what I attribute our membership success for and having positive membership.
So for the Downingtown units in here, what should they do, if anything?
Yeah, what the Downingtown unit should do is just, and this kind of goes to commissioner core work, but also just like the district committee. Is that we need to make sure that all of our units have like updated calendars. So that when we do have a date and we ask for them, like you're ready to send them to us. That's probably the biggest thing I would say for the packs.
We used to.
We're gonna go, nobody needs to go contact the school, that would do like harm. We're gonna get the dates from the superintendent here shortly, within this, like, the next 7 days. And then myself and Ryan, one of our newest employees, we're gonna go do the scout talks at all the schools, and as soon as we have those dates, we'll let the unit know. So that they can have like 1 or 2 like good volunteers who are like sales oriented type people to meet us at the school the evening in which we do the 29th. So.
Are you this is Carolyn Kottmeyer on Zoom. Are you gonna go to the 6th grade centers for the scout troops?
Yeah, eventually we're planning on going there. We're focusing on the Cubs for right now, right? I mean, we got one DE for the whole council and a part-time person, and then the scout exec is out there doing scout talks. And we have about 150 elementary schools. So we're trying to hit up all the elementary schools first, and then absolutely we want to go into the 6th grade center. And we have a strategy in there to try to get some 6th graders.
And yesterday, I got a call from Gus. And we went to a court of honor at Troop 14. And I spoke with the school board member who's a parent there last night, Stacy. And
Oh.
she's
Incredible.
she's very supportive, but anyway, she's ready to carry things forward. So
Yes.
as soon as we go
And
into Downingtown, she's gonna carry it forward to the superintendent and her and another board member, so.
yes.
That's what's
good stuff going
I had a
on, so-
phenomenal conversation with her Friday at 3:00. So. She's like, yeah, the superintendent in Westchester is like biggest 2 hobbies is fishing and camping. So I was like,
That's count.
Where's your boy next year for the shoes for Clay?
I'm even talking about, no joke, inviting him down to go to Sea Base with me. Just to show him some of the cool educational programs we got going on in Sea Base. We're the only youth program in North America teaching young people to restore coral reefs. But I probably need to get him to that tarpon tournament in May. We'll have school activities for the next 100 years in Westchester. So,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
But she's ready to go.
Yeah, it's great. So we really rely, I mean, Norm did a fantastic job lining up this volunteer, Jane Bertone, on the school district in Downingtown. She's someone to continue to vote for, because she's all about the scouts. And, school board members should be kind of apolitical in theory, those positions.
Stacy knows Jane.
Oh, perfect. Good. So, and those are, honestly, we don't talk, Jane and those people don't know about it, and this is not why they do it. But I will be looking in the next 6 months, like after we do the scout talks, of a way to like recognize Jane and stuff for her advocacy of the youth and scouting. And there's some great official scouting awards that we can get them. So I think I know this is mainly focused on membership. But I think a lot of people saw like a couple weeks ago, I recognized one of our volunteers, Raul, with the Scouting Vale La Pena Award. And I think that got like the most number of likes and interactions in the history of our council on Facebook. And we have so many volunteers that I need to go out and thank. And so you're gonna see a lot more of that coming.
You got
in the months
recognized at
to
an
come.
OA event, so for those that don't know, for the weekend, that's.
Yeah. So it's good, a lot of his peers.
Yeah, Raul.
You
You
go to half the
Got
people, that's my nephew, that's my grandson,
Oh, that's funny.
he's got them all there.
So. I know like right now I'm working on in Horseshoe Trails, trying to go into St. Joe's to do a scout talk. So it's just, I know Justice has like moved on, but I was talking to like some current people in the pack, trying to figure out what's the best way to get in there to do a scout talk. I think we go into St. Joe's and do a scout talk, a big Catholic school that hasn't had a scout talk in a couple of years. I see us getting like a solid 15 new Cubs for that pack.
Just have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get them. Yeah,
Pack 23.
They go to 23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
23.
I'll be happy to have them. So,
And the parents we talked to at, Downtown Fall Fest,
Yeah.
didn't matter, you know, they were very interested and, hopefully, Mark Kottmeyer reached out to all of them individually to get to, the leadership in either two or 23.
I'll tell you, the other thing too is we just did a West Bradford Day of Fall Festival. I found out like Wednesday that the two troops that I'm affiliated with were cooking. So I said, all right, I'll come help you. I said, would you mind? I said, is there a table? West Bradford never did a Fall Fest. They said, would you mind if we have somebody recruiting from TAC 152, which is Bradford Heights, West Bradford. And they said, sure, we'll have it, bring a table. So I asked Brianne, I said, do you think Brianne would come? She came, she got 2 cups paid at the event, plus she got about 5 or 6 good leads for the Cup Master. I'm like, and this was an event we weren't even thinking about recruiting at. Don't sound like a lot, but 2 weeks.
Right.
Hey, on the spot is pretty impressive.
and she's a great team member. I mean, someone who's like younger person, 21, who wants to go spend their Saturday night
Yeah.
enthusiastically recruiting
Oh,
Cubs.
she was having a
And we'll be able
blast.
to get a couple paid people. That's awesome. And a bunch of other people who are interested and we'll follow up with them.
She was a lot of
So-
fun.
She's
Entertaining.
just another room right now, printing invitations for another Scout Talk we're doing, a couple we're doing next week. In fact, actually, she's printing the ones for Callum on Monday in Horseshoe Trail, so. I mean, some cool things is we've already hit year-end membership growth in Cub Scouts. We're serving right now in the system, we have like 150 more Cub Scouts than we did at this point last year, which is cool. That's significant. We've already hit like 20% growth year-end in female Cub Scouts. So at a time when the Girl Scouts are offering free memberships in Chester County, that's hard to compete with when they're at the back-to-school nights and we have to charge them $155 plus whatever the pack is charging. But we're out there and we're not letting that get in the way, and we're still getting them left and right. So it's really cool to see.
Well, you just have to say, you have to pay a few bucks, but you do outdoor stuff. You're not doing
And
the
you don't have cookies for $40 a box.
Well, the funny thing is, I was at Kellen Elementary 2 weeks ago, and the lady from the Girl Scouts comes up and she's like, yeah, the difference between Cubs, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts is Boy Scouts teaches outdoor skills and we teach leadership. I just bit my lip and stuff like that. We were laughing on the inside, but
You guys are all familiar with Dark Downtown area. They were at the Fall Fest. Speaking to the woman, the director, she came and was doing 10 or 10. And we were just talking and she goes, I am so excited that girls are allowed now in Scouting America and the old Boy Scouts of America. And I said, why is that? She goes, because I was a Girl Scout leader, I earned my gold award. And she goes, but it has changed over the last 20 years where we do no outdoor activity anymore. And this was a woman that, she swore by her gold award. I didn't know who she was. I never met her. She goes, that's why she goes, and she was running the recreation program for Dark. She goes, yeah, I went out west. She goes, I know Penn State offers programming like this. She goes, but I went out west to Colorado where I actually did the hiking and how to build snowshoes. And I'm like, oh, she could outdo me probably. This woman she's probably a little younger than me, but dynamo all for Scout.
Yeah, well, my neighbor across the street was a Girl Scout leader. She was telling me the other thing. The only time they did outdoor camping was like once every 4 years, some kind of jamboree activity. That was it.
gosh.
Yeah.
The girls won't even make it to the 4th year
Yeah.
to experience that. They want to drop out, so. And
What's
then,
weird is my nieces they were Girl Scouts and they were at summer camp and did all sorts of other camping.
They
stuff.
use that.
And they're 17 now, so like, it's just, I guess it was dependent upon the unit, 'cause the unit my daughter was in didn't do anything.
And this woman said she ran a local Girl Scout, she was like a camp director for within Chester County. And I don't even know where
There used to be a camp down in Oxford.
We did,
Yeah.
but it's gone.
I don't know what camps they ran, but this woman from Dark ran one of the camps. And I'm like, well, I thought they stopped. I had no idea. I thought they all did again. Apparently not.
So lots of exciting things happening in membership. So I guess from Ben's point, right, if you're a PAC, we'll be in touch. If you're a troop, I would say, let's try and help our PACs. Some of them are struggling quite a bit. We could use den chiefs, some committee
Exactly.
members, just some organization.
That's one thing I'm finding throughout our council is that our Cub Scout packs need a lot of help. You know, I can think of one, it's in Diamond Rock, so we'll pick on them, but I'm thinking of this pack and it's sad because the lady goes, like, cause I know this unit between the spring and fall recruitment, myself and others, we've recruited them solid like 15 plus new families. And so I was like, oh, so how many are you up to? Like 35, 40 kids in the pack? She's like, oh, we have like 18. It's pretty much just all the kids you recruited for us this past year. I'm like, 8? What happened to all the other kids? And she's like, well, it's like sports, blah, blah, blah. I'm not buying that because there's 13 Eagle Scouts in the Paris Olympics. And there's so many people who've been able to do both, but our activities very self-paced. But what I got from that, and now working with the units, is that a lot of our packs need a lot of help. Like during the pandemic, there was a lot of there was not a lot of good succession planning. There wasn't all these like new crop of like den leaders and Cub Scouts to pull parents from to help out. And now they're really struggling and they need the help from the troops. So if everybody from the troop can go and meet with their packs like committee and meet with their chair and say, hey, how can I help out? I think it's just as simple as, can you guys like once a quarter even just come in and run some programming for our pack? I think that would go a long ways.
Maybe we have, where we have 2 or 3 siblings. The oldest one joins the troop, and after they hit first class, they're back as a den chief
Oh, that's awesome.
with the family.
Yep.
With the
whole
younger
family.
siblings, and so we've got a string of
Oh, fantastic.
them.
And you guys know, has the press release gone out to everybody about David Montgomery and Lions? Have you guys seen
I saw it. I didn't know who he was.
David Montgomery?
I don't
You should
know.
have watched this highlight yesterday.
Plays for Detroit.
Starting running back, he is now signed on as an advocate for Scouting America. And he's like an all-pro running back for the Detroit Lions. I'm like, he was scared. Yeah, the guy's crazy.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh,
It was.
I'd never heard of him before, but.
Right, I had to look him up, like, oh,
It
cool.
was on there.
you guys don't watch football enough, man. I'm sorry.
It was.
Well, that's our
But
thing.
we
I
have
don't,
one
I don't
last.
follow the line.
Lucky Mike's a Lion fan, that's why.
yeah, we haven't put out a press release about that because I just don't know if a lot of people in Chester County would even know who he is.
Find out if there's any Eagles players who were in the program.
Yeah, like I know.
Has been.
Or-
Yeah, when Shane Victorino was an Eagle Scout, when he was on the Eagles, that was it, or the Phillies, that was big news, right?
Yeah, this guy actually signed like
But yeah, he's like,
contract, I think,
Yeah.
with, like, through his advertising firm or whatever, that he's gonna be speaking out for the program, which is pretty big. I know for Detroit area. But I just thought that's pretty cool. I think we're good. Thank you, Jay.
Paul, have any other questions before I stop recording?
Goodbye.
I'll stop this computer.
Just wanted to say thank you to you all.
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you.